and stuff to the Facebook.
Totally. No worries.
All right. Hello, everyone on Facebook. How are you doing today? Today, I'm here with Maria Hernandez from VELA, VELA Families, and we're going to learn all about what she does and what they do for the community. Thank you for being here, Maria.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you just go ahead and give us a little backstory about how the organization started and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So VELA is an Austin-based nonprofit, and we are in our 10th year. So we just turned 10 a couple months ago, which is exciting. And VELA is an organization that supports families that have children with disabilities, but our primary focus is really on the parent of that child. So when a family is given a diagnosis, whatever that is, autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, you name it, right? Yeah. That usually comes with lots of paperwork and phone numbers to call and very confusing systems to navigate.
I bet.
And so there really wasn't anyone in the community that was showing up for families in that moment to provide them with access to really good knowledge, like not more handouts or more acronyms, but an actual, like, what is this? What does it mean? What can you do? Right. And so we started off 10 years ago, really designing courses and workshops and support groups and one-on-one case management services for parents so that they could have access to everything that they needed to create the very best for their kids, whatever that means for them. Right. And so that, yeah, they could thrive, right? So we moved past kind of the survival method of, I think I know what I'm signing. I think I know what the paperwork means, or I've called and left messages, but we can't get this therapy started or this service connected. And so that's where VELA shows up. We show up and walk side by side with families and make sure that they can create the very best lives for themselves.
That's fantastic. There's got to be so much paperwork, so much red tape. And I couldn't imagine, you're already worried about your child. And, on top of that, you're trying to figure out what to fill out, who to email. And it just must be such a relief to learn that you're there for them and you've been there, what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, disability is something that doesn't discriminate. It impacts everybody, which means you could be a family that maybe has access to email and has access to different resources and maybe speaks, English, and maybe you're not. And so there's additional barriers that come in place with that, right? And just expectations. There's a lot of misinformation about, oh, well, you should just be able to call and access something, right? Well, maybe your insurance doesn't cover it, or maybe they have a wait list, or maybe it's only for certain counties or zip codes. And so, it's not as easy as it seems. And very often families are stuck in the middle of navigating the educational part, the healthcare part, the therapy part, and also their own mental health, right? Because it's a very isolating experience. Even though 1 in 5 kids have a disability, we still very much serve families in kind of a one-on-one. So you get a diagnosis, you're alone in a clinic room. You have a school special ed meeting, you're alone with all the special educators. And so families also didn't really have a place to look around and say, oh, there's a lot of us, right? And I can ask this other parent for ideas or for support or for resources. And so a big part of what we do is bringing parents together. And so all of our courses and workshops and support groups have a very strong element of just that support within each other, and then also learning strategies to just increase well-being and manage stress and take care of yourself too.
Yeah, that self-care is so important. Definitely important. I've seen it with people. It's, you want to do so right by your kids and you forget about yourself.
Right.
And it's not like you have to take, a whole day. I mean, half an hour
Yeah.
An hour's not going to set you behind. That phone call will be waiting for you in a half an hour.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's great that you have these coping skills and you have this network. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
So do you ever, before COVID, did you have people come together in meets, like
Yes.
at your main office or anything like that?
Yeah. So all of our programming before COVID was in person, and about maybe 70% of it was at our location in East Austin, and the rest of it was on school campuses. So we would partner with different districts to go in and essentially teach special education workshops to families whose children were accessing special education services, so that way they could get everything they needed on the school campus. And then once COVID arrived, we, knew obviously we couldn't continue with that same model. And so VELA was really born out of community need. So we spent a year and a half interviewing families to really get a sense of what was needed and how to do the curriculum, and what are the courses that we should launch, and what are additional services that we should do. And so that's really at the heart of how we operate, is in response to what families are sharing versus what we think is missing, right? Or what we think is a good idea. And so we did the same with COVID. We spent time with our families asking them, what do you need right now? What's missing? What are you not able to get anywhere else? And families right away were really clear in that they needed, we usually do 5-week courses, right? Which is intensive. And obviously nobody could do that during COVID because life was on fire. And so what we did based on parents' requests is we just launched standalone 1-hour workshops. So that was kind of how we were dipping our toe into the virtual element.
Okay.
And those workshops were around the key issues that families were sharing with us, which were really primarily, and I'm sure you've seen some of this in the news, but so many families lost special education services during COVID. And so a lot of it was, what do we do? Like, we don't have anything anymore. And so we launched these workshops that were very specific strategies on what you should request in the school meeting, how to do it. Here's the handout you take. Here's what you should ask. Let's practice it. Let's go into breakout rooms. Everybody go with a pair, practice asking for it so you can get feedback from a peer on whether you were clear, on whether it was effective, your question worked, right? And so those workshops were how we kind of dipped our toe into addressing some of the new needs that families were saying around special ed, definitely caregiver mental health. So we did a lot around that. And then we also, basic needs. People needed to pay rent, right? People needed to feed their kids. And so we partnered with a couple of other organizations to be able to allocate just direct cash assistance to families. So we did about $60,000 of direct cash assistance. So families could do whatever they needed with that, right? And then we usually do 3, what we call them family fun days. And so we knew we couldn't do those anymore. They're Play for All Abilities days, but we moved those into drive-through mode so we could still give folks just the experience of joy of getting educational materials, of playing games from the car. We got very creative. We did bowling from the cars. We did water balloon tosses from the cars, but just to really kind of get out of this idea of a drive-through being like you're waiting to receive something, but the drive-through is the experience.
It's the experience, is the fun.
Yeah. So we got very creative, and now we're a year into that 5-week course. So we offer 4 5-week courses. Those are all virtual. Will stay virtual this year. And we've, been able to expand our reach geographically, which is exciting. And so we're serving families that we never would have been able to serve if we had just stayed in person. So
yeah, that's the general consensus, is that it's been hard to get the donations. It's been a rough patch, but your reach, the reach of a lot of the nonprofits has gone so much further.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now, someone from California can, ask a question or join a call
Mhm.
on something that's in Austin,
Yeah,
you know, that, you
exactly.
know, and then somebody else knows, oh yeah, well, let's donate over here. You know, I didn't think of that. Let's, you know, so I think that's definitely been a good thing in the long run. You
Yeah.
know, short term, it was a lot of struggle and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember last year, but we worked above and beyond the hardest we've ever worked to
Well,
show
imagine
up because families need us to.
$60,000 to be able to give to families. That's priceless to those people who got some assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can't do the right Maslow's hierarchy. You cannot do the other stuff unless you have food and shelter. So
Yeah.
that sometimes, you know, I think one of the things that is really amazing about VELA is that, yes, we are an organization that works with families that have children with disabilities, but disability is at the intersection of healthcare, of education, of housing, of fun, right? And so we could very easily say housing is not our problem, right? And like we can't help you with rent assistance. But one of the things that we really work hard at VELA is to be holistic in how we serve. And so if we know that, yes, we should be talking about the school education plan or the occupational therapy services or the evaluation, but if the thing that's in the way of all of that is an eviction, then we have to address that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many families do you currently serve?
So we serve about 1,800 families a year. And so we go through our kind of the bulk of our programming are these courses that I've mentioned to you, which we offer in Spanish or English.
Okay, great.
And those we go in 5-week cycles throughout the school year, essentially. But we offer monthly support groups and case management services and workshops all year round for families. And the topics of those workshops vary on maybe trends that we're seeing where, you know, something is a really big issue that we're getting phone calls about in special ed. So we'll create a workshop to say, hey, instead of just these one-on-one calls, I bet you a lot of people have these questions. Let's do a workshop around it.
Yeah, sounds great. My goodness, it's good to know that you're out there.
Yeah.
Your main focus is, you know, the children with disabilities, but you've got so many resources behind you. You know, you can say, well, here's some information to help you with the rent, with, you know, this and that. So it's not hurting you at all to give out that information. It's helping you to help them. So, I mean, you must have just pages and pages of references to give people for things that they need. And sometimes that's what you need, is somebody to go to that knows it all or knows a lot, that knows where to head you in the right direction. Because you know, Uncle Google can only tell us so much.
Right. And Google's not available to everybody, right? So exactly. I think it's and sometimes, you know, I think one of the big things at VELA is in our courses is, you know, families are very often looking for answers. And a lot of what we work on is we don't have the answer, but we know what questions you should ask, right? Because every family's experience is individualized. It's different. Every kid with a disability is 100% different than another, just like any kid, right?
Like any kid,
and so a lot of what we do is not necessarily saying, okay, it's A, B, C, and D, but it's more so, okay, when you go see that neurologist and you've been waiting to see them for a year, and they ask you this question or they share this information with you that's really confusing, how can you use that moment to ask questions that are going to be empowering to you, that are going to make you feel like, because what we tell parents is you are the expert on your kid, period. Like nobody knows your kid better than you, but you don't feel that way when you're in these healthcare situations or these educational situations. So how do you kind of turn that around so that by asking questions, you can become that person in the team that's really the leader of the team, right? regardless of your education level, your language, your socioeconomic status, you are the parent, right? So you should be the one that gets to kind of lead the conversation and where that's going.
Yeah, amazing. So why don't you tell us a little bit on how we can help?
Yeah, sure.
So about your events that you're having currently, and volunteers and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, VELA was a volunteer run organization for a long time, and we now have 10 staff, which is really exciting, but we still do a lot with a little bit. Right. And so we definitely love to have partners and sponsors and community support. One way that folks can get involved right now is we have our 10th annual Be the Light, which is our annual fundraiser. And so we were talking earlier about VELA. The name VELA really stands for Vibrant, Empowered, Limitless, and Able, which is how we want families to see themselves, how we want kids with disabilities to see themselves, right? But in Spanish, it means candle or light, and as a verb it means to advocate for. And so it just made sense that our fundraiser is called Be the Light, right? Show up and be a light in your community. And so that event is happening in Austin, and we will do an in-person event. It's going to be an outdoor gathering at Mercury Hall. For those of you that know where that is, we'll be outside, and it's really a beautiful evening of getting to know us better. We have a really cool mission experience where you get to walk in a family's shoes at the event and just really get a sense of what the experience is for families and how we can show up as community members. And so that event, there's tickets for sale, and it's really just on our website. So you can go to our website, and there's a little Be the Light tab where you can learn more about joining that. Or if you're like, no, I'm still not okay with doing in-person stuff, you can bid on the auction or buy raffle tickets or participate in another way that feels good to you. So that's a big deal. That gives us basically unrestricted dollars to expand our virtual programming, which we're very excited about. And it also gives us the opportunity to work on those school partnerships so that we can be kind of more upstream in the process. We tend to do a lot of repair work with families, and we want to be part of building, right? Like, how about when you get a diagnosis, you get connected to us, not 5 years later, right? When you've missed a lot of stuff, and then you're kind of like, oh, I wish I knew that. I wish I had that. And then there's a whole other emotional element when you feel like just upset about that. So we have some really cool ideas for next year on how to become just earlier part of the process. And then in December, we have our holiday event, bless you, our holiday event called, our holiday family fun day. And so all of our families are invited to it. We are designing it in two ways right now, as either maybe an outdoor event or a drive-through. Usually we have about 700 folks there, so we need a lot of volunteers.
A lot of space and a lot of volunteers.
Yes. So but it's a way for families to get to just see that there's a lot of us, right? And it's a big community, and we do presents for each kid, and we do, holiday activities and all of that. So we always need volunteers and sponsors and partners for that, because families kind of count down for that. And that's in December. So really, those are the two kind of in-person volunteer sponsor partner opportunities that we have right now. Once we go back to in-person, hopefully in January, then we'll have some other volunteer opportunities in office, right? Once we're actually doing our in-person programming again. So we tend to keep, obviously our social media very updated with what's happening, and then also our Get Involved page on the website.
Yeah, I've posted your website, your Facebook,
Thanks.
and then I just posted your the Be the Light event on Facebook. So it's there for people to easily access. So.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So if you've got a little story that touched your heart or anything you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear some little tidbits from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think, it's I'm always blown away by every family we work with, because I think one, like everyone has such a unique journey and experience to get to us, and then kind of through us, especially because we'll work with a family and then 5 years later, they'll take another course or they'll do case management. So we really get to follow them along kind of the lifespan, which is great. But one mom in particular that she'll take over my job, is I'm like, you should be ED, let's do it, you know? And she has a son who is 11, and his name is Alan. And he he's actually one of like 70 kids with this diagnosis in the world. So very, very rare condition. They just found out what it is. So for years, his whole life, she has been to so many doctor's appointments, so many therapy visits, everyone trying to figure out what is going on, you know, for her son. And because he had this underlying medical condition, he was placed in a very, very restrictive educational setting. And he was just basically reading alone in a classroom every day, you know, and not being challenged, right? And not getting ambitious goals. And so his mom participated in our programming and really identified, like, he can do so much more than is being asked of him. There's assumptions and limitations because of this kind of underlying medical condition. And so she, you know, through kind of some of our support, but really just because she's a rock star, set up this meeting with the school where her and her son presented what their ambitions were for him and what she wanted, and what he presented, what he wanted, what he saw their kids were getting access to in school. And so now he is 100% in general education classrooms. You know, he won the science fair last year, which was virtual and kind of hilarious. And she's PTA president of the school, you know, and this is a parent that is extremely, she's brilliant, right? But she's a Spanish speaker. She's an immigrant family, and she doesn't have access to all of the resources in the world. And so there were also just assumptions about what she would be able to do and not do. And she's not just a leader in her family, but she's now a leader for her school, and making sure that there's now, and part of the PTA has an inclusion chair, and that there's all of these elements happening around thinking about other kids. So that's one of the things that, and you know, she's just doing all of the things. She's going to take over the world. But I think her story reminds me of the thing we see most in our families, is that as soon as a family stabilizes and feels like, okay, I got what I need for my kid, I got what I need for my family, the very first thing they do is, how do I make sure someone else has this? How do I make sure you know, so she she lives in South Austin. And so she is known in the community as, if you have a child with a disability, you go to her house. Like, she gives out her phone number. She is at clinics, just being like, hey, I saw you at HEB. Do you have questions? Are you confused about anything? Because I can hook you up with some resources. And so, you know, I think that's our wish at VELA, is it's not about us. It's about us partnering with families in their journey, and kind of just the community that's built as a result of that.
Yeah, it just trickles.
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
And then those, you know, those family members and even those kids could turn around and come back and volunteer.
Yeah, exactly.
And, exactly. Help out with your organization.
Yeah. It's really about us doing it like for and with each other, right? Mm-hmm. Versus us giving something to families. It's never been that. It's always been, we're evolving together.
Yeah, the cyclical relationship.
Yeah.
That's just, it's perfect. You know, it's a give and take. So many times, you know, people will give something and not get something back, and vice versa. And it wears down on you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do what you guys are doing. And I'm sure it helps so much when you have that give and take with people, and seeing what you've done spread out so far, like with your example.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That way to go. Give her a pat on the back from me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always just high-fiving her anytime I see her. Cause she's she was always the expert, right? She just needed some cheat sheets and some, turn left versus right. And now she's fully activated and doing it for other people. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. It's been so nice to talk with you today and learn all about the organization and what you guys do and how you're helping the community. We like to follow up, so maybe we'll talk to you again next year and see how
Great.
things are going.
Yeah. Who knows? We got big plans.
Yeah, we do these interviews every Thursday. The first Thursday of the month, we usually take off, and then the holidays are going to be a little bit different, but
Sure.
we have our Facebook channel, and you can watch all our previous. There's over a year's worth of videos on there. So everyone take a look and subscribe, and Maria's shining face will be up there shortly. So like and share their social medias, and we just want to get the word around. So if you like this video today, you liked what they stand for, like and share, visit their pages and like and share. It doesn't take much to do that, and you never know who it's going to touch.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Well, next week we will be off because it's going to be the first Thursday of the month, but then we'll be back with some more interviews, and we'd love to hear from our viewers. If you have somebody you'd like to hear from, send us the information and we'll contact them and see what we can do about getting them onto our nonprofit shout out. All right. Thank you, Maria. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.